How's everybody doing? I'm Curt Shaffer. This is Chris Cuevas. It's Raising the White Flag. We're basically talking about bypassing application whitelisting. The idea was that more and more people are starting to see application whitelisting in their environments. The problem is that, and I want to put this up front, that we didn't want to badmouth any of these companies. We'll say that up front. The problem is that their marketing people suck, right? They're out there saying, this stops APT, this stops DLL injection, this stops all the bad stuff. It doesn't. And that's what we've done in our research, and that's what we've seen. So I'm with Foreground Security. Basically, we do a bunch of different things, but we do security architecture, pen testing, vulnerability assessments, incident handling, that kind of stuff. Me, myself, I'm a lead incident handler and a malware analyst, so that's what I do most of the time. I'm also a pen tester, so I'm also doing pen testing for our clients and their engagements. I'm also a SANS mentor for 560, 503, and 610. Chris, on the other hand.
Hey guys, I'm Chris Cuevas. I work for Secure Ideas. I'm a senior security consultant. I'm an open source advocate. I've contributed to the Samurai WTF project, Mobisec. I'm co-author of SEC 571, the mobile security, mobile device security for SANS. And I'm also a SANS mentor for 504. I apologize. No, not for the SANS. SANS rocks.
We had to put lolcats just because. What's this about? Bypassing application whitelisting solutions, like we said. So there's a couple different things we tested, and we wanted to show people what you can do. So our idea is to show penetration testers what you can do if you're on pen tests to combat this. And also, we wanted to let people know that we're managing whitelisting, what the vulnerabilities are, what the weaknesses are, so that you can watch out for them. It's often pushed as the replacement for antivirus. We don't believe that. We do believe that something better than antivirus is needed. We believe application whitelisting is something that's in the right direction. Again, we just think that the marketing is bullshit. So the idea was, like, you know, with spam, we saw spam in the beginning, and spam started at a blacklist, and then they realized, holy crap, these guys are getting on servers all over the place. This blacklisting thing just doesn't make sense. So when they started doing whitelisting, a lot more people are doing, you know, spam whitelisting. So it made sense, because now we're saying this is what's trusted, everything else is not. So we agree with that as far as what their purpose is, but unfortunately, like I said, their marketing sucks. So it's coming to a network near you. If you're not dealing with it already or don't have it already, I'm sure you'll be looking at it or bringing it into your network soon. So what we tested Bit9 Parity 600. We tested McAfee Application Protection and Microsoft's AppLocker. I tested everything, all these three, on Windows XP. Chris took the time to do it on Windows 7, just so that we had relevance for everybody. Why did we choose those? McAfee is a popular choice for governments, but there's other people that choose it as well, just because of the name. Bit9 appears to be a popular choice, and it's easy to deploy. I think that's one of the reasons why it's gaining credibility, or at least market share. AppLocker is built into Windows, in Windows 7 and Windows 2008. It used to be software restriction policies. And I'll put it up front now, we didn't really do anything with software restriction policies on Windows XP because nobody really ever used it. Chris did a lot of testing on AppLocker on Windows 7 because that's where everybody's going. I know that Bit9 is at 602. But I can tell you that through my testing that everything that I'm going to talk about with Bit9 and he's talking about works on 602. Unfortunately, Bit9 was very difficult with us, and they didn't want to give us a trial version, so they wouldn't give us any of the newer versions to kind of do with our testing. But I worked in an environment where I was able to do the testing there, and I can tell you that everything that we're talking about is relevant, at least at 602. 7.0's coming out. I don't know if it's out yet, so I haven't tested on that. But they're pretty relevant.
Question? Which versions?
Oh, the question was, what version, are these versions relevant, or how new are these versions?
Yeah, with the McAfee, we were testing the most current version that I could download that was released January 14th. So, what, 2 weeks ago?
So it's relevant. It's definitely relevant. Yeah.
So full disclosure, I work for Bit9, I'm a researcher there.
Yeah.
As far as us being difficult to work with, I recall
You did.
Sure you also have our email address. Did you happen to disclose this information to us?
I did. I did. And Brian Hazard, actually, I talked to, and I asked him for a trial when I left the place that I was working at, and I said, can you give me a 30-day trial? That's when you offered me to fly me there, which is kind of interesting to me, right? So, like, an airfare is probably more expensive than a 30-day trial. And that's all I was asking for. But yes, you guys know what we're going to talk about today. You guys know about it.
As far as I'm aware, we had no details on this until 2 days ago when we got a third party. So you know about it, though, but we don't continue to talk? All right, I'm sitting down.
Again,
Anyway.
we don't have a problem with the software, and
Yeah.
we think the idea is right.
It is,
You know,
it is.
that you're going down the right direction,
It is.
but there's still ways to take advantage of system tools that are necessary for the operating system to run.
Yeah, and that's our point.
So-
Our point is use what's built in as much as possible because that's going to stay there. You guys aren't going to block cmd.exe. You're not going to block PowerShell. You're not going to block WinRM. You're not going to do it. It can't happen because the systems can't function. And that's what we're talking about. So it's not, we're not bashing Bit9, and I don't want to make it seem that way. Please don't make it feel that way. You know, and we tried to do that.
We're okay with that, and see us after the talk. And
We'll
keep
discuss
in
this
communication.
after.
We're not going to
Yeah.
release the Metasploit module.
Yeah, the code is not being
We've
released.
decided to push
We'll
that
talk
off
to
a
you
little.
after that, but we're not going to
Today.
release the code today. So here's the methodology that we followed. We basically tried Windows file protection. We tried some file naming, playing around with file names. We also tried iExpress packaging, Java exploits and malware, Flash exploits and malware, Adobe, JavaScript, VBA, raw shellcode, and PowerShell. Some things that we wanted to test but didn't have fully the time to test it. HTML5, we did some testing. HTML5 provides so many options that this door is wide open. I wish we had more time to do it, but we didn't, unfortunately. One thing that we wanted to try is masquerading as an ISO for CD-ROM. So basically saying this is a CD-ROM drive because a lot of execution is possible from CD-ROMs. Digitally signed malware is something we wanted to do, and we did test a little bit. We didn't have full time to test everything about it. I know in some cases, like Bit9, you're actually approving publishers, so that may not work. But things like AppLocker, when it was software restriction policies, was like an all or none kind of thing. It was like if you allow valid signatures, everything can run. It was like you either allow valid signatures or disallow. So it was all or none.
So my primary background is in a lot of web app testing and things of that nature. So I apologize. My background's in a lot of web app testing. So of course my first instincts are to, let's attack the client. Let's go after the typical ways that we see, the drive-by malware and things like that. So one of the things we tested were creating ActiveX controls. I was unable to execute commands this way. Everybody's gotten pretty hip to ActiveX, bad. So this was a bit of a failure, but I was okay with that because I'm going to have tons and tons of failures. What is it Thomas Edison said? It's not that I've failed 10,000 times. I've just found 10,000 ways that didn't work yet. So we also tried PDF attacks, trying to spawn command.exe, JavaScript, embed execs. I struggled with this a little bit more than Curt, because on Windows 7 and using Adobe Reader 11, they've locked this down pretty good. We also attempted Office documents, doing VB scripts and macros, and we'll cover some of the results in a little bit as well about how effective this was as a technique for getting a foothold onto the system. One of the other things that, as I was going through this, was really interesting to me was shellcode exec. It was written by Damel Bernardo, and if I mispronounce that, I apologize. He's a really smart guy, much smarter than I am. I'm not a programmer. And that's something else I'd like to state too. A lot of these techniques that we tried, we're not trying anything new. These are all techniques that have been around for years and years and years. We just said, hey, nobody's been applying them over here. Let's see which of these work. Anyhow, what he was able to do was allocate a page in memory as rewrite and execute, pump his shellcode in, and get it to execute. Didn't work for me because it's an executable, and that's going to be blocked by default. It's a fail, but I liked the idea. Typical ways we get in as pen testers, Java applet. I mean, that's our bread and butter a lot of times. Everybody's going to click on a link. You click on my link, I own you. Thank you. If we can actually exploit Java as well, we're in as well, because most systems, there's a certain set of software we can kind of assume, from a pen tester's view, is going to be installed. You know, you're going to have a desktop, it's going to have a browser, it's going to have Java, it's going to probably have Office. So that's why we were looking at these technologies. One of the other things that we typically use in pen tests, JavaScript. Can I hook your browser with a beef hook? Everybody's familiar with beef? Browser exploitation framework, outstanding tool. Tunneling proxy, good stuff. We also found that Firefox extensions and Chrome extensions are allowed by default. If you have these browsers installed, this becomes very useful because once the extension's installed on the local system, now JavaScript has different rights. When you're serving up JavaScript from a web page, you can't execute commands on the system. But if the extension's installed, now you're local. You can kick off command.exe. PowerShell. If you are a pen tester in 2012, go buy a PowerShell book. PowerShell is crazy cool. A lot of these whitelisting applications by default want to block PowerShell scripts from running. Great, that makes sense. Then PowerShell fixes that for you. If you run content PowerShell script and pipe it into PowerShell, it just reads that script in line at a time and executes. How cool is that? So once we figured that out, we're like, all right, we can get these scripts to execute. Can we do some form of DLL injection or shellcode injection? We also tried demand in the middle. A lot of these technologies rely on a server agent, server client architecture. If I can get in the middle of that, I'm going to win. We also looked at, do they validate the certs? Do they check that it's a signed CA or signed by a CA? They do, but I can get a signed CA. What is that, 50 bucks to get a signed certificate and be in the middle? I'm going to win.
Bring this up here. So this is what we had last week. You know, everybody knew that we could pee on antivirus. It was useless. This week, we're just pissing on both. I mean, it's the same. App whitelisting is only marginally better. It really is. And again, I want to just disclose that we feel that it's in the right direction, but unfortunately, as a pen tester, we don't care. We got it all day long. So here's some of the results that we found. We tried some things with Windows file protection, and this is from XP's standpoint, right? So I don't know how many of you know, but XP kind of was stupid about Windows file protection and said, I'm going to protect a file name. So if I even just like rename, like say calc.exe to like winlogon.exe and I ran it, you couldn't kill it from the taskbar, right? You couldn't kill it because Windows was like, no, that's an important file. You can't stop it. So my thought was, let's try to see if we can just name our malware that and see if these app whitelisting products are doing it. McAfee didn't work. Java all day long. I got exploits and payloads. What happened here? Yeah.
See how well that works.
So some of the things that I tried in XP is that I tried a Java applet to build scripts on the fly, VBS scripts, other things like that. That was all possible. Java exploits with just the default stuff like the Java Rhino and some of the other just built-in Metasploit stuff. That worked. Gave me shell back. The thing that was difficult about it is that I got the Java interpreter. So at some point I had to figure out how to escalate that shell or that interpreter session into a better or stronger interpreter session. iExpress. A while ago, and I'm thinking probably at least 4 or 5 years ago, software restriction policies had an issue where if I packaged an executable with iExpress, it's digitally signed by Microsoft. So it would see that digital signature by Microsoft and then trust anything that came after that. It seems at this point that everybody's kind of caught on to that and like has moved past. So that didn't work either. Adobe all day long, any exploits that are going on. Like Chris said though, if you're running a newer version, obviously 10 and 11, they're doing a better job. So I'm testing on like 8, 9, like pre-10 with Windows XP, but all day long on that. JavaScript worked in some cases. Like Chris mentioned, you have to get it to execute locally. So what I did in my example was I used a Java applet to build a JavaScript that was local and then executed it. I think that Chris had other things that he did. VBA worked for me, but it only worked if I was using VBA to make direct shellcode calls. So if I was using there is actually options, and I'll release this when I release our code, that there's actually a way to use VBA to actually write just straight shellcode to the box. And that's not my work, it's not my personal work, I found it online, but it worked every time. Shellcode obviously worked by itself. Shellcode EXE, which Chris is going to talk a lot about, is awesome. If you don't know about it, try it. It's great. Bit9. Windows file protection. I had inconsistent results. At the beginning, I saw this, and I've seen an execution happen just by using the Windows file protection names. So I was naming files winlogon.exe, service.exe, things like that. And the thing is that when I was first testing it, it worked like the first 3 or 4 times, and then it's been inconsistent since then. I think it was a configuration issue where I was at, because in the lab that we were testing, I couldn't get it to work all the time, but it was inconsistent, so it did work sometimes. Java, again, all day long. There's no question. And what you're going to see that's kind of reiterated through here is that the same stuff kind of worked on all of these. You know, again, I'm not picking on anybody. It kind of worked across the board. iExpress did not work. Obviously, some people have learned since then. Adobe worked, JavaScript, VBA, shellcode, all that worked, again, with Bit9.
So again, some of the things I tested on Windows 7, both of these, or all these techniques worked with both IE, Firefox, Chrome. Beefhook, tunneling proxy, amazing stuff. Once I've hooked your browser, I'm in your network. Firefox and Chrome extensions. This was pretty cool, because once it's installed on the system, you have a different set of execute permissions than if it's being executed from the web. HTML5, some JavaScript has access to the camera, the microphone, web workers, data URIs. There's a number of things within that, the HTML5 that are really frightening. I don't know why we're running headlong off a cliff.
I love HTML5.
Yes, as Kevin Johnson will say, HTML5 is wonderful for a pen tester. Windows help files. This was kind of cool to me. It involves a good bit of social engineering to get people to click on it, and once it pops up, they got to click on another link. But let's be honest. I mean, end users, you're going to get somebody with this. It's compiled HTML. It can be called from a web page and loaded. I can call command.exe. You notice I'm mentioning command.exe a lot here. You'll see why in a second. And it looks really helpful. People need help. I know I do. Office documents. They can run VB script. They have access to the .NET API. There's this wonderful research, and if I mispronounce this name, DDA Stevens did. I'm sure everybody's seen it. There's a load library exec that Microsoft included with an argument called load ignore code auths. Really? I mean, come on, guys. This is ridiculous. PowerShell. Wow, I can't say enough wonderful things about PowerShell. PowerShell has the ability to import a function from a running DLL, like kernel 32, and then have access to memory where I can open a page in memory as read, write, execute, pump shellcode into it, and get it to kick off a thread. Win. Thank you, Matthew Graber. Power Syringe was a tool that he developed. Again, a PowerShell script. None of these ideas are mine. We just applied them to another technology. So man in the middle. We love that. I can get in the middle of your agent-server communications. I'm going to win every time. This is in the web app security space, mobile security space, big time. It also works in whitelist application listing. I was able to man in the middle one of the pieces of software and drop the level from, instead of enforcing the policies, to simply notifying about the policies. And we'll show you a little of that. Well, we won't show you the man in the middle, actually. I apologize for that. But we're going to show you.
This
huh?
is Bit9. Yes, this is Bit9. And
As we said, I have a lot of respect for all these guys, so I'm really not trying to.
You want to tell them why it's possible in Bit9?
Oh, by default, the default option setting is not to check or validate the certificates. And even if you do check and validate the certificates, again, if I can get my own signed certificate, it just checks that it's signed and a valid signed certificate. So I'm not sure how to overcome that. And again, once you're in the middle, it's just HTTP. It's post request, it's reply. I could replay things, I can monkey with it. Burp all the way. How many people love burp? Oh, you guys rock.
Curt? Thought I would do it. Self-protection. So, you know, I was just looking around on the web the other day to like try to find some things for one of the companies. Oh, it says Parity.exe. It might be Bit9. I don't know. So I was looking around, and on YouTube, and this will be released on my slides, you can look there, and somebody said, hey, look, I can inject into Parity.exe. I could do DLL injection into the service. Bit9's response was, the video shown here was outdated version of Parity, and the Bit9 customers have not experienced this issue, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? We're going to talk about something where it's doable again on a newer version. It's a good question. You know, I think it was Mike Poor from Sands who said, you know, he was in a situation where he said, how many false negatives do we see every day? And he said, none. Right?
That's great.
Here's the hype. If you just look on the website and you look on, if you just Google like DLL injection, Bit9 is saying that Parity already stops it. What's old is new again. So let me just show you, I'm just going to get into the demo at this point, where I'm going to actually just show you where I can execute whatever code I want on a Bit9 Parity system. Again, I'm sorry, Bit9 guy. We're not picking on you. We're not picking on you, I swear we're not. The truth is that, and what Chris said, you know, a couple times is he said default a lot. And a lot of this is default configuration. So that's what I want to bring out. So some of it is like, it can be fixed. And just to kind of hopefully appease you a little bit, I'm going to show everybody how to fix this as it is now. I do have a fix and a workaround. If you guys are running Bit9 Parity, I will show you how to work around it. So here I am running a version of Bit9 6.0.0, like I said. I got it here in a trial version. So one thing I want to point out right away is that we have Parity.exe, and I'm sorry that this is a terrible resolution, but Parity.exe is running. Right under that, you'll see a program called Notifier.exe. Notifier is like the pop-up that says you can't do this, right? So this is the thing that stops you and says, hey, wait a minute, Parity doesn't allow this. The program that I'm running here is Process Hacker. Obviously, in my demo, I had to allow Process Hacker to run. I'm going to just show you that I'm in lockdown mode here. So if you look right up here, I'm in a lockdown policy. Mark. So I'm locked down. One thing I did is I banned net.exe, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going, if Notifier wasn't running, which it should be if you're running Bit9 anyway, but if the case were that it was not running, all you have to do is issue like a command that's blocked. So what I did for my demonstration purposes is I just blocked net.exe. And as you can see, Bit9 says, hey, no, you can't do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use Process Hacker to go to notifier.exe and I'm going to say inject DLL. In this case, I'm going to check, I don't even have my interpreter shell running. Hold on, sorry.
How do we say that again?
Boo. Demo fail, demo fail. Let me start my interpreter session, I'm sorry. Otherwise, it wouldn't work, right? I could show you that I can inject the DLL all day long, but if I don't get a shell, what's the point?
You want a minute to prep?
I probably need a minute to prep. I think I have one running. There's my multi-handler. Hopefully it still runs after the suspension. I'm going to try this. If it doesn't work, then I'll let him do his demo, and then I'll bring everything back up and make it work. Of course it didn't. So with Process Hacker, what I want to show you guys, if you're demonstrating this to like management or whatever, if you're using Process Hacker just to do it kind of the unleat way, sometimes you have to try it a couple times. It's just not consistent because Process Hacker isn't like shellcode execution and getting DLL injection with shellcode. If I was like understanding what the PEB was or the entry point with code, this would be much more efficient. Unfortunately, at this point, it's not.
You can do the same DLL injection via PowerShell. Go buy a book now.
And just to say, this works on McAfee too. So I don't want to blame Bit9 or put the poo-poo on Bit9, but this works on McAfee apparently as well.
I think in McAfee you got to inject into explorer.exe.
Okay. But there's injectable
It does,
capabilities.
Yes. I mean, to keep a program running, you have to dynamically load libraries. That's DLL, right?
Let me kill it and let's start it again and try. So just by the ability of me being able to terminate it, it just shows you that I can do something. So let me try to terminate parity. It says, nope, you can't do that. So they're protecting their parity.exe service. They learned that. Because in the video that I showed, the guy was like, I can inject into parity. And they were like, oh, let's fix it real quick. So they fixed that. Unfortunately, I mean, they would know that they spawn other processes. In this case, they spawn notifier, but they don't protect it. So there it is again. Let me try this. And if this doesn't work this time, then I'm going to let you do your demo while I get this ready. There you go. You see it spawn run DLL 32. And hopefully, yeah, it's not going to work because I didn't have it started. But as you saw, I was able to inject into notifier.exe. I got a run DLL 32 process. If I look on the network tab, and I killed this at this point, I have a 4445 connection. The SYN is sent, at least. So you guys see that at least the network communication was sent. I was successful in injecting into the process and initiating the communication. I will fix this while he gives his demo, and then I will show you that it works fully after that. Sorry. Demo gods hate me, apparently.
Okay, I even wrote a special slide for the demo gods. Maybe. How many people are familiar with Hack5? There we go. Please, please don't fuck with me, demo gods. How many people watch Hack5? Not that many, huh? Wow, that's surprising. Those guys are fun. I try and encourage my 3-year-old to watch it. Well, she's got to learn early how to hack. Anyhow, what I've done is I've taken their wonderful rubber ducky, which is essentially a teensy device or Arduino chip on there. Anyhow, it's this tiny little device that's basically a keyboard. Because my attack works if you just type it in. That couldn't be bad, could it? That's why I kept trying to point out, any way I can execute command.exe, I'm in. So let's get out of this. Of course that. Thank you, demo gods. You're the best.
They really suck, though.
There we go, there we go. So I've preset up over here, as you can see, some earlier testing. And this demo I'm about to show you here works on all 3 of the pieces of software that we tested. And let's go back to our Windows. Of course we want to connect. Why wouldn't I? This is shellcode that's been Unicode encoded and then base64 encoded. Pretty cool. And then PowerShell interprets C# style prototypes and turns this into a binary in memory. That could never be bad. I did put a delay on this so you guys could actually see it typing. I felt that would be better. There is also the possibility that it might fail on first run.
I hope it does. I hope it does. Make me feel better anyway. I'm just saying.
I challenge you, demo gods, ruin this. That was automated right there. If you're familiar with the rubber ducky and some of the scripting language, I'm actually logged in as admin, but this works as a regular user as well. As you can see, we actually get an alert. They think they blocked it.
You suck.
What does system mean? Did I break it? What does high score mean? Who watched Grandma's Boy? Any fans of Grandma's Boy here? Great movie, go check it out. But I mean, at this point, I mean, it's game over. As you can see, Curt, you about ready?
No, it's still not working. They hate me.
Okay, let's move on. Do you guys want to see another demo against the other pieces of software?
Chris, I do want to show you the fix.
Okay.
Let's beat up on Bit9 more.
No, we're not going to do that. Again, marketers. It's not the programmers. It's not the companies. The concept is a sound concept. The marketers are screwing them. Yes, we hate the marketers as well. See, proven by this.
Okay, I do want to show them the fix.
You want to show them the fix?
Yeah,
okay.
let me show you the fix.
Kurt's going to show you a fix for some of this. I'm not really sure how to fix mine, which is kind of why I'm hesitant to, well, 2 reasons. My interpreter or my Metasploit module isn't working yet. And if I release it, it's really skiddy friendly, and that's a little frightening because I'm not really sure how to turn off command.exe in PowerShell. I mean, Okay, we'll let Curt go right here. We'll release it.
Fudge. Give us a week. Give us a week, the code will be out.
Fuck me.
Me, man. At least your demo worked, dude.
All you gotta do is curse at the demo gods.
Fuck 'em. Fuck. All right, so
So what's the lesson
we
learned?
showed you how to break it, right?
PowerShell.
I did want to show you. Yeah. Say it again, please. Say it again. The idea is use built-in commands as much as possible.
Right, I should. That's the worst part. I don't have a record.
So I had a demo that I was gonna do where basically I did I owned a regular
We can get to that
user's box, then I owned an admin's, use incognito. Everybody familiar with incognito? So I used the token to get onto an admin's box, and then I got on the domain controller. I changed sethc.exe, which is the sticky keys command. I changed that to cmd.exe. And now if I just hit shift 5 times, I got shell. Then I turn on volume shadow copies and copy the ntds.dit file, and I got the whole Active Directory database. And I did this all through memory. So you know what, if you don't have memory the lesson learned is if you don't have memory protection on, you're screwed. Bit9 does have memory protection. Some of the other ones do have memory protection in the newer versions. My fix actually is to turn on this. So I wanted to show everybody how to do this. Until they release a fix or until they turn it on by default by themselves. If you're running 6.0.0, memory rules are not present, like in the GUI, right? So in most cases in the newer versions under rules, you will actually have a memory rules section. But if you navigate to /memory-rules-details, in this case I'm looking at the details, but if you just navigate to memory-rules.php, you can add a rule. What we're going to do to protect against this is we're going to add a rule until Bit9 fixes it. We're going to add a rule. We're going to enable it. We're going to turn on all the restrictions. And we're going to call the target process star notifier.exe star. I'm sorry if that's not the valid, complete syntax. There might be a better way to do it, but I have tested this. This works. Any process, any user. Probably what you want to do in the beginning is turn it on report only just to make sure that you got it right, because you don't want to break people's machines at this point. But as soon as you want to enforce this, you just remove report only, and you turn it on for all policies. That's going to protect the notifier.exe process. So if you're running Bit9 and you're like, oh shit, what do we do now? Turn this on until they come out with this as default. I'm sure that probably next week there's going to be a patch. I'm thinking, right? But what's interesting is this happened before, so what's old is new again. I mean, this is the thing, is that we did not do any new research here. All we did was take old techniques that we'd use to bypass antivirus and other things, and we've applied it in a new way. But I did want to show you guys how to get around it. So unfortunately, my demo did not work, but as you can see, I probably still have my process running. If not, I'll just inject it again just to show you guys. And all I did to do this was actually just use Metasploit to make the interpreter to a DLL. That's all I did. I will be releasing a Metasploit module at some point that will actually go ahead and do this for you, so that you'll be able to demo it a little easier. It will actually be a little smarter. As you can see, run DLL 32 started. So look for it in about a week. And then we're also going to release a Metasploit module, which will do the man in the middle.
Hold on, I have 2 reports to write. And,
all right.
and a deadline for a DARPA project.
Maybe a month, but anyway. Look for it soon. That's all I got. What do you got?
You guys want to see the other demo? All right.
Because mine didn't work. They hate me.
It's like I told you, you got to curse them. Okay, so again, back to the JavaScript with the local permissions. We're going to come back here.
Get rid of all this.